Part 3 of this series subjects the United Nations IPCC theory of climate change to a fundamental criticism that concludes in the clearest possible manner that the theory must be discarded. To a large extent, this is because the mathematical methodology employed in the calculation and measurement of global warming is fatally flawed in numerous ways. The video begins by drawing an analogy between a problem faced by the Nobel laureate Richard Feynman and a similar problem that is facing the United Nations IPCC theory of climate change. In the book of his lectures on the strange theory of light and matter, Richard Feynman elaborated on a particular problem he was facing that is strongly related to the current problem facing the theory of climate change. His explanation of the problem features Feynman's clear and concise description of the general scientific process involved in the verification of a theory or hypothesis. First, he says, you make up a theory. Then you compare it to experiment and or experience. If the theory doesn't work, that is, the result predicted by the theory does not match the experiment or experience, you throw it away and make a new theory. The particular problem he was describing was to do with gluon theory, which in essence he believed was a relatively simple theory, but he faced a thorny, obstructive problem which was preventing him from verifying the theory. What was this problem? Although the theory may be simple, he said, yet we cannot calculate anything with it because the mathematics, the method of calculation, is too hard. Feynman elaborates and explains that although we have a definite theory and hundreds of experiments, we cannot compare them to the theory. Therefore, we cannot verify the theory. It is at this point that we turn to the analogy between Feynman's problem and the UN IPCC theory of climate change. The climate change theory, like Feynman's example, is certainly simple, but again, like his example, it cannot be verified. And if you cannot verify a theory, then you throw it away and make a new theory. But why is it that the UN IPCC theory of climate change cannot be verified? Is it because the mathematics is too hard? No, that is not the reason. Instead, it is because the UN IPCC mathematical methodology of calculation employed in the measurement of global warming is very poorly defined. It is fundamentally flawed in numerous ways. You may doubt this judgment, and you may well believe that this crucial methodology must have been precisely covered in the Paris Agreement. If so, it will come as a surprise to know that the Paris Agreement statement contains no formally agreed way of defining the present level of global warming. It was categorically stated by the Nature journal, 1st December 2023. It adds that the pact does not even define temperature increase explicitly and unambiguously, and rightly concludes that without an agreed metric there can be no consensus on when the Paris Agreement 1.5 degrees Celsius level has been reached. The same factual statement was made on 17 July 2024 by the European Union's Copernicus programme. It too stated, the Paris Agreement doesn't detail an explicit methodology or landmark for a formal method to determine when the 1.5 degrees Celsius limit might be breached. This strange oversight had been recognised by the IPCC itself. It reiterated that the Paris Agreement does not specify precisely what is meant by global average temperature or what period in history should be considered pre-industrial. At that juncture, in 2018, the IPCC took up the challenge and defined the measurement of global average temperature and what period in history should be considered pre-industrial. Using only the highest quality data and peer-reviewed studies, Part 3 of this series provides a detailed critique of this methodology employed in the calculation and measurement of global warming. The conclusions are profound.